I didn't even feel like even now to this day, I still don't have the adequate language required to effectively describe what occurs to you in that moment in time. And I found myself in a situation where I was overpowered and I just didn't even know that someone could harm you physically in that part of your body.
It was on a Friday night. He ended up at one stage passing out in my bed and I was like, oh, I feel so bad for him. It's okay, I'll just let him sleep there and I can just go sleep somewhere else. So we just fell asleep in the lounge room. And then I woke up in my bedroom being sexually assaulted by him.
I'd had my son and I'd been suffering from postnatal depression. I was given antidepressants and also given ECT treatment. My depression seemed to alleviate, but I came home from hospital and I started having flashbacks, which I realised that was something that I'd kept somehow suppressed. My experience of sexual abuse.
Been working as a sex worker for more than 20 years in criminalised environments. And look, I'm speaking both personally and also as someone that advocates for community. You just don't have the ability when something goes wrong in your work, when you're subject to a violent crime, when you're subject to a sexual assault, to have the same access to police. And nobody should ever think, if they're subject to a sexual assault, is it safe for me to call the police? Are they going to charge me with a crime when I'm trying to report my rapist?
When it happened, I was in such shock. I mean, first, the physical pain and the lack of fight that I had really shocked me too. Maybe to save myself that I had to be quiet. I went so quiet that I never spoke of it again.
I was so confused and I couldn't stop crying for 2 days. Just not sure. I was like, this actually happened? This actually happened to me? I was in denial.
Actually saying the words were almost like something being ripped out of me, something that had been sitting there for so long but needed to come out. And once I'd spoken about it, it was so exhausting that I was physically unable to do anything else but cry.
The amount of people I have heard that have said, if only she hadn't done this, worn this, placed herself in that situation. I've lost count. It's exhausting.
Was left with that it was my fault from the police officer. He said that the girls should look after themselves, that I shouldn't get drunk. It would have been easier if it happened in a taxi, because then it would have happened on film.
People almost sort of treat sexual assault and sex work like it's some sort of occupational hazard that we should be expecting. Sexual assault's not acceptable in any workplace. It's certainly not acceptable in mine. People want to distance themselves from sexual assault. They don't want to think it can happen to them. They want to rationalise all the ways that they could have avoided that. But they do that by blaming you. And I think people also do that to themselves because it's a way of, in a weird sense, it's a way of taking control back. That if I'd done this or if I hadn't done that, then it wouldn't have happened.
I was going to say that's probably the thing that affected me the most was how responsible I felt for what had occurred because I didn't fight and I didn't say anything.
Why did it happen to me? I must have done something to encourage it, deserve it. I've slowly learnt that, yeah, it wasn't my fault. I think it's maybe just one of the steps that you go through.
I think the problem with a lot of things is that the people that think they have solutions are too used to talking and not listening. So I think the voices of people that have been subject to sexual assault need to be prioritised. And I think particularly the voices of people that have been subject to sexual assault from marginalised communities.
The reason why things happen to Aboriginal women is completely different as well in that sense, and different structures of power that affects us and oppresses us.
Hearing what others have gone through helps. I was always interested on hearing other people's stories about what had happened, how they coped. And it always gave me a sense of, okay, well, if they can do it, so can I.
You can experience absolute bliss from actually overcoming something. It is quite an extraordinary experience, and some people never experience that because their lives are untouched by adversity or trauma. And I don't wish it upon anybody, but I have had the most life-changing interactions with people because they have known about my story.
If you're courageous enough to ask for help, there'll be someone, 9 out of 10 times, if you're in a group of women, there'll be more than one of you that's gone through something like that. So if you speak up about it, you're more often than not to get some kind of help or support.
We're not the criminals, we're not the perpetrator here. And I don't want people to be ashamed of themselves because of something that happened to them. That's not their fault. So that's why I want to tell my story.
Sometimes it feels like it's the only thing in your life. It's the only thing that you can think about, and it's negative and it's horrible and it's painful. And I've found over the years, the more and more I've worked on this with whatever I can, this thing that feels like has encompassed my life and has been my life has slowly become smaller, or I have grown around it. It's something I've learnt to live with in my life. It's part of me, it's part of my past, but it's not all of me.